Did you know one of the greatest heists in history didn't target a bank or a crown jewel? It targeted a simple bean. And that very same theft is part of your morning ritual. I'm talking about a crime you might be holding in your hand right now. You raise a mug to your lips, and from that very first sip of that, however you like to dress it up, cup of liquid gold, you are enjoying historically stolen goods. I'm talking about coffee. But not the friendly barista kind. Oh no. This is the story of when coffee was a state secret, a weapon of war, and smuggling a single bean was a crime punishable by death. I'm Jessi, and this is the story of the original Bean Gate. So, grab your favorite mug and join me as we explore a centuries-long OMG of international intrigue, economic warfare, and a beverage so powerful it could topple empires. Our story begins not with a mighty empire, but with a humble berry. Legend whispers of an Ethiopian shepherd named Kaldi during the 9th century, who noticed his goats were behaving very strangely. They were dancing. Now, these weren't just happy goats. They were leaping and prancing with an energy he had never seen. The culprit? Small red berries from a bush near where he was tending his flock. Kaldi, wanting to know what was up with his new dance troupe, tried some himself. And let's just say he was the first to feel that wonderful buzz we all know today. Over the course of 600 years after Kaldi's discovery, this energizing fruit made its way across the Red Sea to Yemen. Here, Sufi monks found it was the perfect fuel for long nights of prayer. The drink, then called kawa, meaning that which prevents sleep, became a cherished secret of the Arab world. It was like Red Bull, but for the Renaissance. And for a long time, the port city of Mocha in Yemen was the only place exporting this treasure, and they guarded that secret as fiercely as a dragon guards its gold. In 1536, the expanding Ottoman Empire, who already had it all, silk, the spices, the big pointy hats, set its sights on and conquered Yemen. When they arrived, they saw something even more valuable than land: coffee. Plantations were seized, trade routes were brought under control, and just like that, the entire supply fell into the hands of the Ottoman sultans. This wasn't just a new drink. It was a new weapon and a source of immense power. They gave it to their elite soldiers, the Janissaries, creating caffeinated ninjas who could march for days and fight all night. But more than that, coffee became one of the most valuable commodities in the entire empire, a major source of wealth that fueled its 16th century golden age. The Ottomans, though brilliant, were paranoid businessmen. To protect their caffeinated cash cow, they made it illegal, punishable by death, folks, to export a single fertile coffee bean. Before any beans were exported, they were made completely useless for planting by either dipping them in boiling water or partially roasting them. It's like selling someone a car but taking out the engine first. Here you go, enjoy the cup holders. Then in the empire's heart, Istanbul, something remarkable happened. In 1554, two merchants from Damascus opened the very first coffeehouse. It was an instant, roaring success. Soon, coffeehouses were popping up everywhere, and by the end of the 19th century, Istanbul alone had nearly 2,500 of them. These weren't just places to drink, they were the social media of their day. For the first time, men from all walks of life, scholars, artisans, merchants, and soldiers could gather in one place. They came to talk about everything from poetry and trade to the latest gossip, and most dangerously, politics. People called them schools of the wise, because you could go there and learn about the world just by listening. It was a revolution in a cup, creating a new public sphere where people could speak their minds. Of course, this made the Sultan very nervous. He had his spies sit in these coffee houses, disguised as regulars, trying to listen in on conversations and gather public opinion. The authorities saw these places as dens of vice and potential rebellion. They even tried to ban them a few times, but the love for coffee was simply too strong. The genie was out of the bottle, or rather, the bean was out of the bag. Now, for nearly a century, the Ottomans held the world hostage over a cup of joe. Europe was desperate for a taste. They were stuck with ale and wine for their morning buzz. And let me tell you, that makes for a very different kind of board meeting. They were willing to try anything. The Pope even called it the bitter invention of Satan, until he tried a cup. But all monopolies must fall. And the great Ottoman coffee lockbox was finally cracked. How? The legends vary. Some say it was a daring Indian pilgrim in the 17th century, named Baba Budan, the original bean bandit, who after a journey to Mecca, strapped 7 fertile beans to his chest and walked right out of the empire, and successfully transported them back to India, where he started the first coffee cultivation outside the Arab world. Others tell a legendary tale from the Battle of Vienna in 1683. As the story goes, when the Ottomans fled, they left behind sacks of strange brown beans. A Polish spy named Georg Franz Kolschitsky, who spoke Turkish, recognized them, claimed the sacks as his reward, and opened the first Viennese coffee house. He had the brilliant idea to strain out the grounds and add milk and sugar. And suddenly, coffee wasn't just a bitter Turkish drink, it was a European sensation. But the cracks were appearing everywhere. Not long after, a Dutch trader managed to snag a plant from Mocha. The Dutch began growing coffee on the island of Java in Indonesia, hence the nickname. And the French entered the game when a naval officer, Gabriel de Clear, famously shared his water ration with a single coffee plant on a voyage to the Caribbean, ensuring its survival. And as coffee spread across the globe, it wasn't just one type of bean that made the journey. The entire global coffee empire rests on a surprisingly diverse family tree. The genus is called Coffea, and it's a lot bigger than you might think, comprising at least 129 species. But in the grand caffeinated drama of human history, only 2 species have truly stolen the show. The first is Coffea arabica, the sophisticated, nuanced heir to the original Ethiopian and Yemeni beans, making up about 60 to 70% of the world's production. The other is Coffea canephora, commonly known as Robusta. As the name implies, it's the tougher, more caffeine-packed sibling, resistant to disease and perfect for espressos and instant coffee. So, every time you choose a brew, you're not just picking a roast. You're casting a vote for one of 2 botanical rivals in a centuries-old struggle for the throne. And what of the Ottomans? They believed control was everything. And while they lost their economic monopoly, coffee cultivation spread like wildfire across the globe, to Java, the Caribbean, and eventually to Brazil. But we must speak of the bitter grounds in the bottom of this cup. This global coffee boom, especially in the Americas, was built on a foundation of profound cruelty. It was built on the backs of enslaved people who were forced to work on plantations under brutal conditions. This is a tragic and inseparable chapter in the history of the drink we enjoy today. The Ottomans gave us the method of boiling very finely ground coffee in a pot called a sezva to create a strong, unfiltered drink, known today as Turkish coffee. They created the world's first coffeehouse culture, a model that would sweep across Europe and eventually the entire world. But in the end, the quest to control a simple bean was a futile one. The energy, the conversation, the community it created was always destined to spill over. So the next time you sit in a coffee shop, sharing ideas with a friend or simply enjoying a quiet moment, sipping your latte, your espresso, your morning wake-up call, remember the dancing goats, the clever sultans, the brave smugglers, and the immense human cost that is part of this story. Remember also, you are participating in a story that changed the world one cup at a time. So what's the moral? Don't underestimate the little guy with a big idea, especially if he's had a double shot. If this story perked you up, let me know in the comments. What's the one thing you'd smuggle out of an empire? Sugar? Spices? The recipe for decent Wi-Fi? Hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you don't miss our next adventure into the stories we thought we knew. Until then, stay curious, stay caffeinated, and choose wisely.